In October 2014, the Native Plant Society of Texas held its annual Fall Symposium in Texarkana, Texas. Located in the far northeast corner of Texas, this area is also known as the Four Corners of Texas. Field trips were planned in all 4 states: Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. Texarkana is on the border of Texas and Arkansas, where Oklahoma is less than an hour to the northwest, and Louisiana a half hour to the south. It's truly a 4-state region. Not only do those 4 geopolitical state lines converge in or near Texarkana, but several ecological lines converge there too. The Texas piney woods consists of 3 landscapes: pine-dominated uplands, damp forests, and minor stream bottoms, and on lower slopes, and third, forests and swamps on the floodplains of major rivers. Mary Talbot Prairie in Bowie County was the field trip that showcased the grasslands. This field trip was offered 3 times during the symposium. 2 of Texas' 10 vegetational zones, piney woods and post oak savanna, bisect Texarkana's Bowie County diagonally. Ecosystems converging all around include pine and hardwood forests, grasslands, deserts, swamps, and even subtropics. Approximately 6 miles west of New Boston and about 22 miles west of Texarkana, this native prairie has never been plowed and only mowed for hay by the family who has been its keeper for generations. The Mary Talbot Prairie is 114.87 acres of pristine virgin prairie, bursting with diverse plant species. Now owned by the Native Prairie Association of Texas, Talbot Prairie is a Sylvius dropseed prairie, in reference to the rare Sylvius dropseed grass that is actually dominant there. Along with the Big Four, big and little bluestem, Indian grass, and switchgrass, more than 300 species of plants have been recorded on this tall grass prairie that features wet and dry zones and mima mounds. Mima mounds are indicative of virgin prairie, having different vegetation on the mound from the surrounding prairie. A mima mound can be seen here just to the left of the tour group. Previously known as Godley Prairie, the appreciation of Mary Talbot Prairie was a multi-generation tradition in the Talbot family. Grandfather Lloyd Wilson promoted leaving the prairie as it was as a source of feed for their livestock. This wonderful example of family wisdom resulted in long-term sustainable land use, which served the Talbot family well during the drought of 2011. And this tradition will be continued, as the Native Prairie Association of Texas signed a memorandum of understanding with the family to continue haying as a management tool. Jason Spangler in the foreground was the field trip leader, past president of the Native Prairie Association of Texas. He and his wife Lisa were one of many that made contributions to make the purchase of this prairie possible. Some of the plants seen on the Mary Talbot Prairie were giant coneflower, Rudbeckia maxima, the leaves and the dried seed heads shown. Salvia azurea, black-eyed Susan and Salvia azurea. Indian grass in the middle foreground and background, and little bluestem at lower right. Giant coneflower leaves can be seen at ground level. Asclepias viridis, green milkweed or green antelope horn, is common in pastures from Kansas to Texas. Generally avoided by cattle and horses, it can be found along roadsides, ditches, prairies, open areas, and other areas with little vegetative competition. The leaf margins are often wavy, flowers are white, mostly one flower per plant, and are distinct in that they lack horns. Upon close inspection, some rose or purple color is evident in the center of each individual flower. The milky substance that is exuded when a plant part is broken is very sticky, much resembling Elmer's glue. These milkweeds bloom from late spring to middle summer. These orange bugs are Asclepias bugs, or milkweed bugs, on a green milkweed pod. Purple lovegrass. Split-beard bluestem. Long-spiked tridents. Bucknera americana, American blue hearts, and narrow-leaf milkweed at the bottom of the photo. American blue hearts prefers moist, loamy soil and full sun. Narrow-leaf milkweed is common to East Texas. A close-up of narrow-leaf milkweed, Asclepias fascicularis. Needs full sun, easy to grow, and drought-tolerant, but occurs in a variety of dry to moist soils. All plants in the Asclepias family are probably toxic, and some fatally so to both humans and animals. The eastern persimmon tree. This tree is at 40 feet, but can grow from a low, shrubby tree of 15 feet to 100 feet in rich, moist soil. Primarily valued for its fruit and attraction to wildlife, the fruit is not edible until exposed to frost or consistent low temperatures. The wood is used for golf club heads and furniture veneer. Patton's aster, Symphotrichum patens, prefers some shade and moisture. An identifying feature of Patton's aster are leaves that fold against the stem. Mountain mint, or narrow-leaf mountain mint, is clump-forming, has a minty smell, and grows 20 to 30 inches tall. The flowers are now spent, but vary from whitish to lavender with purple spots. The Memorandum of Understanding between NPAT and the Talbot family not only benefits NPAT and the Talbot family itself, but the community as well through the ensured availability of both local feed and as a seed source for future restorations. And along with the conservation of this plant community, many grassland animal species will benefit from saving this habitat. The 2014 symposium was headquartered at the Texarkana Convention Center on Cowhorn Creek Road on the Texas side of Texarkana. The environmentally friendly convention center boasts the prestigious LEED certification by the U.S. Green Building Council. The Fall Symposium occurs traditionally in one of the 10 vegetative zones of Texas. It is a chance for professional and amateur botanists and others with an interest in the native flora of Texas to share knowledge, ideas, and friendship. The symposium theme was a diversity of ecosystems and focused on how native habitats play a role in our daily lives and offered an opportunity to learn how to restore and preserve the rich and diverse native plant communities. This and more were covered in 12 breakout sessions, 10 field trips, and 10 symposium speakers. Here, Dr. George Diggs presents his talk on ferns of Texas, why the Lone Star State is so special. Special events included a photo contest for images of native plants and plant habitats, a silent auction to raise money for scholarships, and exhibitors and vendors sharing native plant and conservation information. The 2014 symposium was hosted by the 4 Native Plant Society chapters in the northeast corner of Texas. the Northeast Texas chapter, the Caddo Wildflower chapter, the Four Corners chapter, and the Lake Country chapters. They showcase an informative live plant display and beautiful decorative displays on the center stage and in the common areas. Texarkana was founded in 1873 at the junction of two railroads. The name is a combination of Texas, Arkansas, and nearby Louisiana. In 1876, Texarkana, Texas was granted a charter under an act of the Texas legislature. Around 1900, Congressman John Morris Shepherd secured a postal order officially establishing both Texarkana, Arkansas, and Texarkana, Texas. With its abundant rainfall of 40 to 55 inches a year, the major vegetation types across northeast Texas is pine forest with longleaf dominating in the southern portion and loblolly and shortleaf in the north. As with all pine forests, there are different vegetation zones created along the streams and on hilltops. One Friday field trip was to the Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge in Karnak, Texas, aboard chartered buses. Administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge is home to a number of wildlife and plant species listed as rare or threatened. And the wetlands of Caddo Lake are important to migratory bird species within the Central Flyway. Caddo Lake is named after the indigenous peoples called Caddoans or Caddo. The tribe's original home was northwest Louisiana, northeast Texas, eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and southwest Missouri. As an added bonus, on the 1-hour trip down to the refuge, we heard the story of the legendary Harry Page Potter Ames, the bravest woman in Texas, and her life in the East Texas wilderness near Caddo Lake during the time of the birth of the Republic of Texas. Thanks to a project based on the historical novel Love is a Wild Assault by Aletha Hamilton Kirkland, an actress from Theater Northeast of Northeast Texas Community College, portrayed Harriet Potter as she told of her adventures and experiences during the violent and tumultuous era of Texas birth. Kirkland based her 1959 novel on the actual memoirs kept by Potter. The Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge only opened to the public in September 2009, on land that was once the site of a Department of Defense Army ammunition plant. There is continued cleanup of the land and groundwater. The first part of the property we toured was used as a signal test area where signal flares and explosives were tested. Though there is the continued cleanup, it protects some vastly important ecosystems, and its wetlands also support one of the most diverse plant communities in Texas, including cypress trees nearly 400 years old. The driving tour of the property made stops along the way for short hikes. This map of the Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge shows Caddo Lake at upper right, and the visitor center at the deer icon in the far left. Further to the left, outside the refuge border, is the city of Karnak. Hunting is allowed during the various hunting seasons. The auto tour route, shown in red, is open to the public 7 days a week from sunup to sundown. In yellow are the roads open from September through December, and hiking trails are shown in black. One stop was along Harrison Bayou, seen here at lower right, running north and south between Area 8 and 9. It's one of the highest quality old-growth bottomland hardwood forests remaining in the southeastern United States. Restoration is heavily managed, replacing loblolly that the Army planted back to the historically correct shortleaf pine and hardwoods. Shortleaf pine is more fire-tolerant, where loblolly, with its dense woody understory, is more fire-prone. Types of pine on property are short, loblolly, slash, and longleaf, which is not natural to the area and has winged seed that twirls like a helicopter. Loblolly encroachment is allowed because it's market friendly. Some plants seen on the refuge were winged elm. On the left are branches showing their wings and the leaves on the left. Cherry bark oak, showing the leaf and the bark. Swamp sunflower and the seed head. Shortleaf pine has short leaves and smaller cones. Loblolly pine has longer leaves. The tour of the Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge was guided by Vanessa Neese, a wildlife biologist for Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and with the adjacent Caddo Lake Wildlife Management Area. Wax myrtle can be invasive here. Flame leaf sumac. Leotris elegans can reach 4 feet tall, and its narrow leaves can grow to 3 inches. Flowers are purple to pale lavender. Charles Allen is showing us a sassafras tree branch. Charles is a senior botanist with Colorado State University and is stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana, where he leads many area field trips. He's the co-author of Edible Plants of the Gulf South, Wildflowers of Louisiana, Trees, Shrubs, and Woody Vines of Louisiana, and Grasses of Louisiana. Sassafras has mitten-shaped leaves. Its roots and root bark is used for tea and to flavor root beer. Lady's Tresses orchid is in the Spiranthes genus. The orchid stem grows 1 to 2 feet tall, and surprisingly, the half-inch blooms are orchids. Southern pine beetle is causing the damage to this tree. A slash pine cone. Blackjack oak. Green ash. Leaves of the green ash. Ebony spleenwort. Texas has a surprising number of native ferns and lycophytes, 127 in all, the most of any state in the continental U.S. This is particularly surprising given that most people associate ferns and related plants with humid conditions, just the opposite of much of Texas. Texas' diverse species thrive under a variety of conditions, including some that are very extreme, from cave entrances to the deserts of West Texas. Variable water levels and the creation of the ammunition plant in the 1940s have helped keep most of the 750 acres of bottomland forest safe from harvesting. But in the ammunition and signal test areas, years of regular fire and other disturbances have resulted in undesirable plants. At the beginning of the restoration in 2009, about 500 acres were thinned and 1,800 acres were burned annually. But restoration has slowed, and no controlled burns have occurred in 3 or 4 years. In 1993, portions of the area that are now the Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge became the 13th site in the U.S. designated as Wetlands of International Significance under the Ramsar Convention. The Ramsar designation at Caddo Lake is the only one in Texas. Of the 20,000 acres at Caddo Lake with the Ramsar designation, Harrison Bayou and its bottomland hardwoods was the tour's next stop. A bayou is a slow-moving river. and Harrison Bayou originates 15 miles southwest in eastern Harrison County and runs northeast into Caddo Lake. Presumably named for Harrison County, the surrounding loams and clays support the dense patches of pine and hardwood trees. The Caddo Lake area has the oldest bottomland cypress forests in Texas. The cypress trees here are very large and relatively short-lived. Few mills are able to accommodate their size. The yellow posts mark test wells for groundwater testing. The staff is constantly drilling and testing soil and water. They inject microbes to neutralize and clean the water. This path led to the portion of Harrison Bayou that we toured. This is a polypore fungi called Ganoderma lucidum. Mushrooms and fungi have been viewed with superstition and mystery for thousands of years. They suddenly appear after rains, last only a short time, and disappear from sight. Once considered part of the plant kingdom, they now have their own kingdom called fungi. Studies on Texas fungi began in the 1840s and continue today. Carolina praying mantis. Crossvine. Another stop was an open full sun area along a roadway. On this stop was goldenrod, or solidago. Narrowleaf mountain mint has big showy flowers when in bloom. Big bluestem. Split-beard bluestem. Indian grass. Dr. Allen is holding broom sedge on our left and little bluestem on the right. Charles was helpful in the grass ID, being author of The Grasses of Louisiana. He was a speaker at the Symposium on the Flora of Northwest Louisiana. In his talk, he revealed that he is red-green colorblind. He also runs a bed and breakfast with his wife Susan on his property in southwest Louisiana. Texas silkweed. The final stop on the field trip was a chance to browse the Refuge Center's Visitor Center to learn more about the efforts to return the refuge to its pre-settlement condition. This structure is the restored Armory Guard Station, which has been moved from the main entrance to the ammunition plant. One of two signboards at the Visitor Center explaining the invasive salvinia water plants. The common salvinia and giant salvinia are both non-native floating aquatic ferns. Both salvinias can double in size within a week or less than good summer growing conditions. The salvinias are native to South America and were imported into the U.S. by the water garden and aquarium industries. Common salvinia was first noted in Texas in 1992 and giant salvinia in 1998. Since then, the salvinias have covered tens of thousands of acres of public and private waters in Texas. Salvinias get to ponds by flooding, by traveling on boats and trailers, in bait boxes, and possibly by birds, such as herons and egrets, by reptiles such as turtles and alligators, and by mammals such as nutria and beavers. To stop the spreading, boats, trailers, live wells, and bait boxes should be cleaned. Salvinias can be eliminated from small ponds by physically removing them. Allowing them to dry or composting will completely kill it. It's also being managed biologically with the Salvinia weevil. Friday night dinner was held at the Big Pines Lodge on Caddo Lake in Karnak. All-you-can-eat fish, hush puppies, coleslaw, and French fries. The Graceful Ghost steamboat and pontoon boat tours are headquartered out of Big Pines Lodge. The Graceful Ghost boat ride was included in one of the Symposium field trips. The paddle wheel steamboat is a replica of an 1890 excursion steamboat and is the last known operating steamboat in the United States. The keynote speaker was Greg Grant, a lifetime member of the Society, a horticulturist and co-author of Texas Home Landscaping and the Southern Heirloom Garden. His talk was called Back to Nature, Returning to My Roots, telling his lifelong journey from the woods to the city and back to the country. One of Sunday's field trips was the private property of Pam and David Adams, south of Atlanta, Texas, approximately 30 miles south of Texarkana. This 35-acre property is owned by Society members Pam Adams and her husband David. It has 114 species of native plants cataloged on it so far. The land has been in Pam's family for at least 45 years. It features a pond, bog area, and hilly wooded uplands. Black Bayou runs along the back of the family's property line. The pond was dredged and enlarged 3 years ago, but maintenance generally is restricted to bush hogging the area around the pond twice a year, allowing the abundant native plants time to flower and reseed. Eupatorium rotundifolium, same family as the mist flower, but with a white flower. Hydrolia ovata, or blue waterleaf. Eliocharis grass is in the sedge family. Woodwardia virginia, or chain fern. Woodwardia regalis, royal fern. Lobelia puberula, downy lobelia. Short bristle horned beak sedge, Rhynchospora corniculata. Flowers and flower head on the right. A polygonum species called smartweed. Meadow Beauty has purplish blue flowers and thin leaves. The larger leaves in the right photo is not part of the Meadow Beauty. You can also see the white spikes of smartweed. Diodia, or buttonweed. The native rattlebush has rounded seed pods and orange flowers. Ron Loper, along with his wife Ruth, were our tour leaders. They are members of the Tyler chapter, and Ron is a past state president. Texas dandelion is in the Pyrrhopappus species. American holly. Native azalea. Hickory. sweet gum, Leotris, flowering dogwood or Cornus florida, Pam's yard around their home is landscaped mostly with native plants and is highlighted by a picturesque potting shed built for her by her husband David. David and Pam Adams surprised us with a barbecue lunch, including special cupcakes. Another Sunday field trip was Black Mountain Gardens, south of Daingerfield, Texas, 65 miles southeast of Texarkana and a few miles north of Longview. Black Mountain Gardens is Northeast Texas' only retail nursery specializing in native plants. It's located midway between the towns of Daingerfield and Lone Star. Belinda McCoy is co-owner of Black Mountain Gardens. She's a past president of the society and co-founder of 4 chapters: Northeast Texas chapter, Caddo Wildflower, Four Corners, and the Lake Country chapter. Belinda and her mother Margie McCoy opened the nursery in 2011 on land that was once Margie's parents' farm. In 1968, Belinda's grandparents bought this house on 14 acres on the side of a hill known locally as Black Mountain. This is the yard where Belinda's grandmother first began teaching her to garden when Belinda was a child. The nursery is constantly changing and improving. Display beds ready for future growth. This section of the nursery grows eatable and medicinal plants and herbs. A creative and inexpensive use of doors for fencing. Some of the plants on display and for sale were Gaillardia, or Indian blanket, white Turk's cap, red Turk's cap, along with a gray fritillary butterfly, eastern redbud, butterflies, hummingbirds, and blooms abound in the casual setting of this country nursery, featuring native trees, shrubs, vines, grasses, ground covers, perennials, and annuals, along with heirlooms and herbs. Northeast Texas, an adventure into a part of the state that's more than just a corner doorway for travelers. It's a crossroads for 2 ecosystems. As a child, Lady Bird Johnson grew up just miles from Caddo Lake, within the dark bayous of Caddo Lake in East Texas, and under ancient cypress trees decorated with Spanish moss. The sense of place that came from being close to the land never left Lady Bird. She devoted much of her life preserving the land, public spaces, and wildflowers. About East Texas, she quoted, "When I was a little girl, I grew up listening to the wind and the pine trees of the East Texas woods." This presentation was produced for the Native Plant Society of Texas, with text and images by Betsy Farris and narrated by Bill Hopkins. We invite you to learn more about the Native Plant Society of Texas and become a member. Visit our website at npsot.org.